Thank you, Issa, for sitting with me today to talk about your life in West Bank and, of course, your unwavering commitment on the ground in contesting Israeli oppression and, in the process, seeking to undermine it.
Thanks to you and thanks to TRT for giving me this opportunity to talk to the people in Turkey and to people all over the world.
Thank you. So perhaps before we get into your activism in earnest, you can tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up in the West Bank and how that eventually led you to activism.
I was born in Al Khalil in Hebron city. The city is now the microcosm of the Israeli occupation. If you want to understand and learn about the Israeli separation, the Israeli apartheid, the Israeli segregation, you just come to Hebron for a few hours tour. So Hebron is a microcosm. So I grew up and I was raised in the city center of Hebron. That made me, become an activist to try to protect my identity, my city identity, and to protect my people, and for sure to expose the reality of the Israeli occupation, the Israeli apartheid, and to expose that Israel is not a democracy and Israel is not defending itself. That really made me, work very hard as a kind of a duty to me as every Palestinian on the field to try to defend their land, to defend their cities, to defend their rights, and to be able to reach the globe and everybody outside, because in Palestine it's not internal conflict, it's occupation, it's now genocide, it's apartheid, it's oppressor and oppressed people, and the globe doesn't know that exactly what's going on. Israel tries to hide the truth and tries to hide what's going on the ground. To be very honest, I grew up in a family who wanted me to become a professor in engineering. They wanted me to take care of my education, and I was like that. I was trying to escape from the occupation, because we, the Palestinians, think the occupation is trying to, prevent us from education, and we use education as a way to resist the occupation. So Palestinian families really want their children to go to schools, to go to universities, to get their own degree and to be educated. So education is a kind of resistance, and it's a struggle to education. That's what my family wanted me, and I was like that until the occupation closed my university, Palestine Polytechnic University, in my last year of studying electrical engineering. That made me really resist the closure of the university, and I led the students to reopen the university. And for me, it was a struggle for education. It was not directly about occupation. I managed to reopen the university with other students, and I graduated as an engineer and then as an activist. And from that time, I started campaigning against the occupation using nonviolent resistance and using community-based activism to try to make the occupation apartheid costly, and for sure increase awareness and create internal movement and a global movement against occupation, Israeli occupation and Israeli apartheid.
Mm-hmm. And before the second Intifada, which is, I believe, when you really, I feel, became an activist in earnest, was there, you feel, among the Palestinian people in the West Bank, some kind of optimism surrounding the Oslo Accords, the peace process, or did the Palestinian people know from the outset that this is going to disadvantage them?
To be very honest, Palestinians want peace, and they were really trying to make peace in any way with Israel. But unfortunately, after Oslo, after Hebron redeployment agreement in Hebron, we knew the real intention of the Israeli government and the Israeli occupation, that they never ever wanted us to become equal with them. And who killed Oslo was the Israeli fanatic extremists who are in the government now. It was the assassination of Rabin by Yigal Amir, who is an Israeli extremist, and it was the Ibrahimi Mosque massacre, which was done by Baruch Kuldestein, where 29 Palestinians were killed in the Ibrahimi Mosque in Hebron, 1 year after Oslo. That two main actions were the main obstacle to achieve a real peace. But from day one, the Israelis, they didn't have a real intention to give up land and to give us our rights of freedom and justice and equality. And Netanyahu in the 90s, Itamar Ben-Gvir in the 90s, they announced that they will work against the peace process. They will work against Oslo, against the two-state solution. And now Itamar Ben-Gvir, one of the most fanatic extremists in Israel, who was not allowed to be in the Israeli military because of his extreme violent attitude toward the Palestinians and toward the Israelis, now is the Israeli National Security Minister. So the Kahanist, the terrorist, the extremist, the fascist in Israel, who really blocked Oslo and blocked the peace process, are in the Israeli government now, and they are the mainstream. We, the Palestinians, we were optimistic, we wanted peace, and we are always giving hands for peace. We want peace because we are the ones who are suffering. We are the ones who are stateless. We are the ones who are not having equal water supplies. We are the ones who are not being able to control our travel. Israel is controlling all aspects of our life, all the details of our life, electricity, water, import, export. It's all controlled by the Israeli occupation. And we are the ones who really want to be treated as a human being. But from day one, from 48, 67, Israeli governments and many Israelis are treating Palestinians as human animals, not as a nation who deserve full equal rights as everybody in the world.
In the face of all this Israeli danger and violence and brutality and abuse, you're known for having embraced principles of nonviolence and thought in action. And I'm wondering, how did you come to do that? And maybe you can also speak to the challenges of being able to practice nonviolence when you're constantly being threatened. Like, it seems like it's a difficult thing to do, to be nonviolent when you're constantly being
First, Israel doesn't, doesn't want any nonviolence activist, and by the military law 101, nonviolence resistance is not allowed and illegal. So General Assembly is not allowed for Palestinians. Me personally, I was detained, I was ill-treated, I was arrested, indicted, and convicted in the military court for my non-violence resistance and peaceful campaigning against the Israeli occupation and against the Israeli illegal settlements. So Israel doesn't want any kind of resistance against the occupation, against the apartheid, against their oppression. This is for sure. And about Palestinians, I'm not a new Palestinian non-violence leader. They say Issa is a new Gandhi. No, it's part of our religion. It's part of our culture. It's part of our traditional act. We had the longest strike in the 30s against the British mandate in Palestine. So it's in the 80s. We had a great movement before the first Intifada against non-violence movement against the Israeli occupation and the Israeli apartheid. And Mubarak Awad, the leader of that movement, was deported from Bethlehem, and he's Christian, to the United States. The first Intifada, the majority of the first Intifada activities, actions were non-violent activities led by women even. There is a film called Naila and the Intifada, how the Palestinian women had involved in the first Intifada and even led many activities and action and campaigning and massive people. I was a child in the 80s, but many Palestinians, I'm inspired by them, how they were organizing, how they were campaigning, the strikes, the protests, the rallies. Unfortunately, we didn't have social media on that times, But the majority of the first Intifada was really non-violent and a lot of activities, popular activities. And in the 90s, we were protesting as Palestinians. And the beginning of the second Intifada, it started by popular resistance and protests, and the Israeli military were killing more and more Palestinians and forced Palestinians to use guns and use violence against them. But in general, Palestinians are so peaceful, and I don't try to change people from using violence to non-violence. The majority of the Palestinians don't use any type of resistance. So we try to encourage them, teach them, give them the tool to be able to resist. And the occupation, unfortunately, doesn't understand that, and they don't want to understand that. They don't see the Palestinians as equal human beings to give them the right to resist and to say no to what is happening to them. And they really target non-violence activists, and they target non-violence leaders with all methods, from smear campaigns to destroy their image, to jail, to kill them, to prevent any leader for the Palestinian people who will be seen as a future leader of the Palestinian people. They destroyed all the Palestinian structures. They destroyed PLO, the Israeli occupation. They managed to destroy the PLO. They destroyed the peace process. They destroyed any structure they can of the Palestinian people. So we don't have a real civil society in Palestine, and because they control everything. They control everything. All aspects of our life, all details of our life is under the control of the Israeli military occupation.
I mean, now, maybe also before, would it be fair to say that you were living among people who effectively are your oppressors? Are these your neighbors too? Like, these are people who are constantly harassed? Is this like across the board? Like every single person who is an Israeli is constantly abusing, threatening? What has your experience been in that regard?
To be very honest, Paul, the Israeli society is moving toward fascism. We had some peaceful interaction with some soldiers in the past, but now I feel sad from inside. I feel my heart is crying when I see Israeli teenager soldiers, 19, 20 years old, mistreating 90 years old Palestinian man, dehumanizing him. They have fun on him. They just, tease him at the checkpoint. Palestinian women are badly treated at checkpoints. So the Israeli, military, and the Israeli oppression is really making our life harder and harder. And me personally, I suffer each time I pass a checkpoint, either violence and dehumanization toward me personally or toward my people. It's really a kind of huge shift in the Israeli society from the central to fascism. And we see that from the soldiers and from the settlers. They attack you, beat you up, destroy your house, damage your house, burn your house with impunity, either soldiers or settlers. I was attacked many times by settlers. I got 5 stitches, 3 stitches, my nose was broken, I was hit all over my body by settlers. Just last month, I was attacked in my house 5 times by settlers, documented. And I filed complaint to the Israeli police without any indictment, any accountability for the Israeli settlers. In October 7th, I was tortured and beaten and sexually assaulted by Israeli soldiers, and the Israeli soldiers attacked my house, damaged my property and I filed complaint to the Israeli military police without any accountability. Why? Because I am under the Israeli military law. I am guilty until I'm proven innocent. I don't have any right. In the contrary of the Israeli settlers who live close to my house illegally, according to the ICJ ruling that all the settlements are illegal and the occupation is illegal, and according to Geneva Convention Article 49, which considers all the settlements in the occupied Arab territories with Golan Heights as a war crime, they have more rights than me in my own neighborhood. They are under the Israeli civilian law with full civilian rights and political rights. And we, the Palestinians who are living, in our land, we don't have any rights. Basic rights we don't have. We don't have enough water, enough electricity, We don't travel. I had to cross a Limby Bridge, and I was detained in the borders by the Israeli occupation, and they many times prevented me from traveling just like that without giving me any explanation. We have 3,500 Palestinians in military jails now in administrative detention. So you are in jail without knowing why, without any kind of charges. So yes, settlers, they live illegally in our own cities, in our own land, and they don't stop. It's the point. It's not that we say that, okay, let's try to find a solution. No, they don't stop. They are working with a policy that nowadays they don't evict you physically from your house, but they make it impossible for you to stay and remain. How they make it impossible for you to stay and remain? You don't feel safe at all for your family. You don't have services, no ambulance, no enough food, no enough water, no enough electricity, no maintenance, no social life. Nobody can visit you. It's not a life, and no identity. People can't show their Palestinian identity in public. In H2, in Hebron, in Area C, they punish you if you have a Palestinian flag these days. They punish you if you write Palestine. If you are with a sweater or t-shirt with Free Palestine or Palestine, you are arrested, detained, and sometimes they force you to take it off in public. So this is the real situation now on the ground. It's about identity. It's about the land. It's about that they don't treat us as a human being and as a nation. In the contrary, they said it in public that we are fighting, this is the Israeli leaders, human animals. This is how they described us in the media, and this is how they treat us every day. The cities in the West Bank, they are all closed with gates. They close it whenever they want. It's closed with with earth mounts here or there, and they just open one checkpoint. They close it whenever they want. This is all over West Bank. Hundreds of checkpoints, hundreds of movement obstacles. In Hebron, we have 22 checkpoints in less than 1 square kilometer. We have more than 100 movement barriers. Some families in Hebron, they have to pass 3 checkpoints in 200 meters to reach their home. And it's not only, to travel from one city to another, to go from your work to the house, and from the house to the work, to the school, to the university, to visit. If your sons are not allowed to visit you where they were born, they are not allowed. And all of that, Paul, is happening, and the mainstream media is not exposing that. Mm-hmm. They are not coming to the Palestinian to see what's going on. Mm-hmm. And each time, they talk about Palestine, they try to take the Israeli narrative. Why? Why, when you talk about Israel, you don't bring the Palestinian narrative, but when you want to talk about Issa being attacked in Hebron, you want to ask an Israeli soldier why Issa is attacked as a kind of justification, as if it's not happening a lot. No, what is happening in the West Bank is really a kind of torture of the Palestinian people. It's a kind of, oppression and brutality and apartheid on the same time. But Palestinians are staying and remaining, because for us, it's about that remaining in the land is a kind of resistance. And we call it all the time, existence is resistance. Because our existence, it means we protect the land, we protect the identity, and we challenge the oppressors who their main purpose is to ethnic cleanse the Palestinians from the West Bank, to annex the Area C in West Bank, and to annex certain area to Israel without the Palestinians. They want to steal our land without us, and their ultimate goal is to have us in ghettos, that we are surrounded in small communities, and they have Israel from the river to the sea, for sure, without the Palestinians. The reality is now, Israel is an apartheid state from the river to the sea. Why? Because 2 sets flow in the same area for different people.
And there's also apartheid, if I understand correctly, between, or in terms of how Palestinians are processed through the judicial system versus Israelis.
Yes.
If you're a Palestinian, you would have to be tried, if you can even use that word, in a military court. And
it's not a court.
Okay.
It's not fair trial.
Yes, I was going to ask
Conviction rate in the military court is 99 0.73.
Right. So,
Yes, and I was indicted in the military court, and I know what it means to be in the military court. It's military judges from the military prosecutors. They are always settlers, and it's a military court. There is no free trial. It's Congaro court. It's not a court of, you have witnesses. No, if the soldiers come, they have the ultimate power to say whatever they want, and the court only believes the soldiers. And I was convicted, me personally, on 4 trials based on false testimonies from one settler and from soldiers. And I'm a nonviolent activist. And the judge told me, "So you are not allowed to peacefully protest," in my indictment. And not only me, the majority of Palestinian kids, Palestinian women, every day they are there, and they really harass them. The sole purpose of the court is to prevent the Palestinians from resistance. The sole purpose of the court is to dehumanize Palestinians and to fake the international community that it's a court. In the contrary of settlers, they have terror against Palestinians, and they are indicted in civilian courts. In the military court, you are guilty until you are proven innocent. So I come to the court guilty. In the Israeli civilian courts, where the settlers are indicted, the Israeli settlers and the Israeli civilians for sure, they are innocent until the Israeli police proves that they are guilty, and there is no political will to make the Israeli settlers guilty. There is no accountability. They have full impunity. Just recently, the Israeli National Security Minister said it loud to the Israeli police not to go after the Israeli settlers, terrorists who are attacking Palestinians, who are killing Palestinians, who are burning Palestinian homes, who are, really, practicing real terror. If you want to use the term terrorist, it's related to the Israeli settler violence, organized violence toward Palestinians, which is protected by the Israeli government, by the Israeli police, and by the Israeli military, and for sure hidden by the Israeli media as well, and many other international media. They don't talk about it and describe it as it is on the ground.
So, if I understand correctly, there's a collusion in these so-called courts. There's a collusion between the military, the judge. In the case of Palestinians being attacked, those persons. But you're saying that it's just done simply for appearances and in some way to maintain some.
Yeah, the Israeli judicial system is in favor of prolonging the occupation and to keep the occupation and to suppress the Palestinians from resisting the occupation. That is the Israeli judicial system. That's it. For us, it's in favor of the Israeli military occupation. That's what they do. And part of the occupation is the settlements. Part of the occupation is the settlers. So we don't trust the Israeli judicial system. Mm-hmm. For us, we don't vote in Israel to decide or to change the law or to change the military law. Why the settlers are indicted in a civilian court and Palestinians are indicted in a military court? Because the system was built to help the settlers, empower them, and to suppress the Palestinians and force them to leave the land. And many Palestinians were sent to jail. Kids, 12 years old kids are in jail and indicted in the military court. It's the opposite of the civilian courts in Israel. And when you go to the civilian courts and against settlers, you find the prosecutor is in favor of them. My nose was broken once by an Israeli settler. I felt them doing that. The prosecutor asked the judge to send him to the behavior officer. If I was the one who attacks that settler, and break his nose, I will go to jail for years. And if they don't kill me, and with the 5 years, I went to court and I didn't get anything. So that's the reality. One time, they suspended the settler from coming to Hebron for 1 month for attacking me, and another time, they sent him to the behavior officer. So, and the behavior officer is a settler. He will tell him, do it again, but don't make him film you. That's what's going on. And Israeli leaders, imagine that the Israeli finance minister and the Israeli minister in the defense ministry, Smotrich, he was calling to wipe out Hawara, a Palestinian village near Nablus, and the settlers burned many houses, many cars, and killed Palestinians there. It's really official. And the Israeli Knesset members, look to them. They are the ones who are inciting officials lawmakers in Israel, they are inciting to kill Palestinians. They are inciting to transfer Palestinians. They are inciting to use nuclear weapons against Palestinians in Gaza. They are Israeli officials, and they are not accountable for that incitement. Israeli celebrities, Israeli journalists, they incite against Palestinians, and they call for genocide. They call for violence against Palestinians, and they justify rape. Imagine that raping a Palestinian prisoners was okay in Israel. They are defending the rapist.
Yes.
They are justifying rape. They are justifying killing children in the West Bank as well, not only in Gaza. The Israelis are really, to be very honest, they feel empowered because of the blind support of many governments in the world, and they feel that there is no accountability and they have impunity.
I want to ask you actually, have you seen Israeli violence increase in any substantial way since October 7th in the West Bank?
Yes, the Israeli violence, the Israeli terror increased, I can say, by settler violence and settler terror at least 3-4 times doubled. Army violence, army brutality 10 times more. Killing innocent Palestinians in the street like that. Innocent Palestinians to be shot and that's it. Palestinian being tortured, detained by Israeli soldiers, and soldiers filming themselves detaining Palestinians and torturing them. I was tortured and sexually assaulted by soldiers. Nobody cared in Israel about what happened to me, and I'm a human rights defender. They can't label me of any political faction in Palestine, and you can use me as a case study of what's happening to the Palestinians. And the army is acting as militia. They are wild. Yes. And we are not only facing that, we are facing existence war against us. There is a real announced war and genocide on Gaza, and there is unannounced war and ethnic cleansing toward Palestinians in the West Bank. Every day there is a raid in West Bank. Not only in Jenin, not only in Tulkarem, not only in Nablus, not only in Ramallah. Whole West Bank every night is raided without any excuse. They go to houses and raid the houses to intimidate Palestinians, and they have the policy of making the occupation felt.
Yes.
Yeah, so you will feel that the occupation is on your shoulder, and the soldiers are very close to you. This is how what they do it. Their policy is to make the occupation felt for the Palestinians. How the occupation felt? Checkpoints, raid, settler violence, army violence, brutality, threatening you over social media, threatening you or everywhere. I'm talking about West Bank. So the situation is not easy at all, and people are really now suffering from closure. No work. Economically, really, we suffer a lot now. Unemployment rate is more than 50% now. We are talking about no enough water. They reduced the water supplies by 40%. Israel controls all the water aquifers in the West Bank, and they sell us our own water. And now, after October 7th, Smotrich, who's responsible about the occupied territories, reduced water to 40%. Electricity, we don't have enough electricity. The West Bank is fragmented to go from one city to another, one village to another. It's all separated and closed almost, and they open it in certain hours. People are afraid to walk around or to drive or to be in certain areas, and arrest and detention. They take you from your house, beat you up, take you to jail, and they don't feed the Palestinian prisoners. They don't feed them. A friend of mine just released last Wednesday. He lost 40 kilograms from his weight in 10 months. You know what it means? His wife didn't know him. The mothers of the released prisoners didn't recognize their sons because of losing 30 kilos in few months. Is they go out a different person from jail. Mistreatment, torture of Palestinian prisoners as well, killing people in the streets. At least 600 Palestinians were killed. Few of them were killed by settlers. They were shot by Israeli settlers or settlers in an army uniform. So after October 7th, Israel is working to create facts in the ground and speeding up building more settlements, House demolition. They are demolishing houses in the West Bank almost every day and creating facts in the ground to the policy of they don't evict you directly from your house, but they make it impossible for you to stay. It's a kind of organized ethnic cleansing toward Palestinians to remove them from their homes, their land, their towns, their cities, to annex West Bank to Israel. This is what they are doing.
Yeah, it's like a psychological warfare.
Exactly.
You know, the first time we spoke is for the podcast on the Palestine Chronicle. I remember you using this phrase about making the occupation costly. That's how things can get done. That's how the struggle for justice for Palestine can be advanced. And also in that process, being creative. I'm wondering if you can maybe provide some examples of that that you feel are notable before or after October 7th.
Paul, to be very honest, after October 7th, I saw many people all over the world being creative to make the occupation costly. And I am very proud of the solidarity movement and the pro-Palestinian cause movement all over the world. Palestinians on the ground, they really thank everybody who's tweeting, who's writing, who's donating, who's standing with the Palestinians. And what we need now is to transform the public opinion and the public support in many countries all over the world to political support. And really, it made many Palestinian families feel a little bit, protected, to feel a little bit more, not feeling the worst feeling is to feel that you are alone and that nobody knows about your suffering. Now, we see people all over the world. Look to the states, the campuses, the students, the Jewish groups who are occupying the Capitol Hill and protesting for Palestine in UK, in Turkey, in Europe, and all over the world. People are showing their morals. We usually, as Palestinians, we depend on the people in the human being principles and morals, because this is the human being, how they act. They act against occupation, apartheid, inequality, war, genocide, killing children, women, and what's happening in the West Bank and Gaza. It's making the human being wake up from being, misled, and from the destruction the Israeli propaganda machine made to our character. Now they know that Palestinians are human beings. Palestinians should be treated as a nation who deserve a country, a state, identity, self-determination, freedom, and justice and equality. Many people in the world believe that Israel must be accountable for its occupation. Israel must bring to justice. We should use the international community mechanism of peace to make Israel accept peace. And without concrete actions, this is how to make the occupation costly, without concrete actions of punishment against the Israeli government and the Israeli occupation, nothing will change, and the occupiers will not accept to judge themselves or to make themselves accountable. So this is the main role of the international community and to the public opinion all over the world, to force their governments, to force their politicians to act according to the international standards of the international law on Israel and make Israel accountable. How we can do that? Awareness campaigns, networking campaigns. The students in the campuses in the United States and all over that was creativity. Nobody led them. They led themselves, and they are teenagers, 19, 20, 21, 22. Look to Columbia, Harvard University, the most important universities in the UK and Turkey. The students are leading a movement to really change the future, their future. They don't want a country to be upon the international law. They want everybody to be accountable under the international law. Now we have much better situation that the ICJ ruled that the occupation is illegal. So it means the UN should consider the occupation as illegal, and its obligation now not to have any relationship with the occupation in the occupied territories or with any company or with any making no profit. So we are talking about trade agreements between Europe now and Israel, but must exclude settlements. We are talking about donation coming to settlements from the United States must be now accountable to this, to this international law, and making the occupation costly and being creative this is what making the occupation costly. You are exposing the occupation. The film we watched here in TRT, the Holy Redemption is one of the way to make the occupation costly. So filmmakers can make films against the occupation and to level up Palestinian character and level up Palestinian cause, because the relationship is like that. The imbalance is too big to make peace. So we need to level up Palestinians and make occupation accountable. This is how we make it. Filmmakers, they can make films. Sports, they can engage Palestinian sport teams and level them up. So we need to use all our skills to make the occupation. Writers, they can write. Researchers, they can make researches. Everybody in the community can use his own or her own skills to think well how to make the occupation costly, and we must be united. This is something very important. Our unity is our power all over the world, and not to concentrate on what divides us, to concentrate what makes us united all over the world. The pro-peace movement in the world now and pro-Palestinian cause movement is growing. We have more support, we have more visibility. Twitter X now is really full of support. All social media is full of support of the Palestinians, but we don't want to feel a little bit lazy and to stop. We want to keep on the momentum and going on with our activities, with our actions, and it's very, very important. Some people say, look, we are protesting since 10 months, but we didn't stop the war. No. If you are not protesting, they would kill me, Issa, long time ago. They would kill much more people in Gaza. They would use force to displace the people and transfer the people and do more genocide. We play defense ball now. So everyone is doing something, is making a difference. Everybody is using his time and his money to support Palestinians. Is making huge difference, and we feel it now, and we see it. People in the ground. I'm doing this since a very long time, and people that didn't understand what I'm doing. Now they see it very, very important of what are we doing, especially the celebrities and many politicians. But we should go after the politicians, and we should go after the mainstream media in the West, and and observe and see who's giving money, who's writing articles pro the occupation and pro the apartheid. And I say it all the time, be creative, be connected to the people on the ground, and we can together think about a way to make the occupation costly. Me and Medea, we just agreed to make a campaign. I know her since a long time ago, and we sat for 1 hour together. We agreed to make a campaign in the United States against the NGOs and the charities which is giving money to the violent settlers and to the settlers in the occupied territory. So we can do a lot, but we need to be sure that we will win, and our cause is a just cause, and Palestinians will not give up. Look to the people in Gaza. They didn't leave the south. 700,000 Palestinians were facing death and not to leave their land, because Palestinians say it loud. We will not be refugees again as 1948. We will not do it again. We will stay, we will remain. We need the people to support us. Alone, we can't end the occupation. Alone, we can't win. We need your support, because the occupation is not alone. Many governments, they support the occupation, and Israeli apartheid is not alone. So it's a global movement to make the occupation costly and make the occupiers pay the price, because I will not forget. I will not forgive what happened to me, and I will make the occupier accountable for their violence and for their aggression and for their occupation and for their apartheid, but according to the international standards and according to my values and principles of using nonviolence resistance and community activism. And the people in the ground, they're staying and remaining, and they will never leave. They will never give up our rights. This is something very, very important, in spite of everything they do to us.
Well, thank you so much, Issa, for this illuminating and admittedly very harrowing discussion about what is happening in the West Bank. Certainly much more of the West has to know about this, and it's not being covered nearly enough in Western media, but also for your your dedication and passion for what in what you do. Before we wrap up, I'm wondering if you have any final thoughts or observations.
My final thoughts is that Israel is not defending itself. And Israel is not the only democracy in the Middle East. It's not a democracy at all. Israel now is defending its occupation, its apartheid, its illegal settlements, its genocide. And we, the Palestinians and the people who are really supporting us, they are not anti-Semite because our cause is clean. They are the ones who should be afraid of the accountability, and we should continue our struggle with the same momentum and with the same level, and we are almost there to win. It's the beginning of the end of the Israeli occupation, but we should speed it up to make peace for everybody in the world, for us, for the Jews, for everybody, because we love the Jews. It's not about Jews at all. It's about occupation, occupier, illegal settlements, violation of the international law. And the Palestinians really, they want peace, and they want equality, and they want justice. And Palestinians should be treated as a nation, not as human animals. And a nation means freedom, justice, and equality. Human animals means shelter and food. It's not what we want. We want ceasefire in Gaza. We want to end the war, but we want to end the occupation and apartheid in the same time and make the occupiers accountable by the support of our brothers and sisters and the movement all over the world. And the world will write about them. The world will write about everybody's position and what they did and how they contribute toward peace or toward the Israeli apartheid and the Israeli oppression and aggression. And we, the Palestinians, are now suffering, yes, paying high price, yes, but there is no change without being willing to pay the price. And we are paying a holy price from our blood, from our money, from our weight, for being in jail. And it's not easy, Paul, but we will not give up. This is what I promise everybody who is supporting the Palestinian cause, that we on the ground, we will not give up. We will stay and remain until we become equal and we end this oppression and we end the control of the Israeli occupation of their government as well.
So, thank you so much, Issa.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
All the best.
You too.